I feel like I'm not worthy of it. I feel like I'm not good enough to have the things that I want to have. I feel like, who am I to have everything that I want? Have you ever felt that? I know for me in my personal path, I had this powerful experience of this just so many light beings supporting me and loving me, and I am there in the center of that circle. And instead of feeling excited and happy, I broke down into tears. I felt unworthy. I felt that I shouldn't be standing here, surrounded by all this love, by all this support. And so many of us have that because so many of us, we're in this human experience. We have an ego, we have a thinking mind. And it goes into the unworthiness. It goes into, how am I not safe? It goes into, I can't be protected and loved unconditionally. Surely I have to fight for it. Surely, there are some parts of me that are flawed. We have this concept that it is not safe to be one with God, Life, Source, Consciousness. And yet that is a dimension of us that is actually our essence, and anything else is actually those layers on top. So 3 steps. How do we move through that? How do we move through this, I'm not good enough, or I'm unworthy? This video was inspired by a clarity call that I recently had, where a person just was like, I'm so excited, so many things I want to create, but I keep self-sabotaging. Like, who am I to have that? And there's this contraction. So 3 steps. How do we move through that? Let's dive right in. Okay, so we're not going to be sugarcoating this. We're not going to be tiptoeing. We're diving right in. When we feel not enough, like I shared, in the intro, that moment where I was just surrounded by so much love. It was such a deep, powerful experience, and I wasn't happy about it. I was overwhelmed. Other experiences in my life where I get this guidance, you will be supported, just move through this. And I said, I don't want to be supported. I don't want to be guided. I just want this. So it's like there's this rejection of that divine guidance, which sounds ridiculous because we're basically rejecting our happiness, and yet so many people do it. So what are the 3 steps, the 3 keys? How do we move through this? Number 1, understanding who is saying the story. Whose story is it? Understanding that there's a layer of you, a part of you, the ego, the thinking mind, that has a beginning and an end, right? It was born and it will die, this particular persona. And this persona is terrified because there's this push and pull, like, I want to be supported and I want to have everything I want. And at the same time, well, I want to do it and I want to create it, and I feel unsafe being held by life. So there's this, I want to be held by life, but I also don't want it because that's the opposite of safety, because just that's the ego's nature. It does not feel safe. That's why so many people have trouble being in the present moment, because the mind, who can't exist in the present moment, either takes you into the past, right? Those stories, those memories, those replays, or it takes you into future projections. How do you want things to be? How do you want things to definitely not be? And so on. Right now, in this present moment, it cannot exist. So noticing the part of you that's going into the unworthiness. There's no unworthiness right now. If you are deeply, deeply present, there is no unworthiness right now. It's not possible. Because that ordinarily originates in the thinking mind. So number 1, whose story is this? If you want to go a little bit deeper with this one, not only understanding that it's your ego, but the ego learned a particular story. It learned some programs. You weren't born with it. You weren't born with feeling unworthiness. And some also go into, well, say, yes, it was wound, or past lives, or it was in the womb that I took on this programming. The point is, that is not your essence. Whose story is it? And I mean, yes, we can absolutely, if you resonate with the whole past life thing, we can totally go into that, but that's really unnecessary. This lifetime is enough for you to deal with. Whose story is it? Whose voice do you hear when that unworthiness comes up? And just writing it down, not fixing it, not trying to change it in any way, just bring it to awareness, okay? If you want to go a little bit further with that first step. Number 2, I kind of touched on with this one, but it's really connecting with your essence. Number 1, we understand that, like, oh, wait a second, that story is just a story. That's That's not me. That's a part of me. So the second step is, can I connect deeper to me? What does being in my center look like? What does that connection to God, life, source, consciousness, source look like? What does deepening into the present moment look like? Because that's real. Like I said, you can't possibly have this feeling of unworthiness in the present moment if you're deeply present. It's just not possible. So number 2, connecting deeper with yourself, to your essence, to God, life, source, consciousness. Maybe you have spiritual guides, maybe they're angels, however you want to personify it, whatever is right for you. Connecting with your essence, that place of no thought, that place of no duality, that place where there's no right or wrong, just isness, just I amness. Number 3, we're coming back to the mind, right? Because we have a human experience. This is what so many people go into. It's like, okay, well, I want to have no ego and I want to have no thinking. But you're here to experience this, and that's the juiciness of this. That's the juiciness of this experience. My guidance reminds me so often, I was just recently doing a Vipassana, and my guidance told me to do it a little bit differently, because when you don't have a physical body, when you're not in this reality, you only perceive frequency. And my guidance reminded me, it's like, why would you take away music? We can't hear music, but you can hear music. So while you have ears to hear, while you have this way to physically interpret frequency, enjoy it, love it, have fun with it, play with it. It's not a struggle. It's like you're in an amusement park. This lifetime is like an amusement park. Enjoy it. And so we get to come back to the mind with this third step. Coming into, how does it feel? Can I practice this feeling, right? It's just like lifting weights. You have to practice to be able to lift something heavier. So with this, you get to practice. Your ego may be uncomfortable with this, right? Like I had that, like I said, those moments of just deep connection, like, oh my God, there's so much divine love surrounding me. And my ego's just contracting and feeling small, like I'm not worthy of this. I'm breaking down into tears. I don't want this. I feel like I shouldn't be here. Practice that. What would it feel like to live your best life? What would it feel like to actually allow yourself to experience all that you want? And this is something that I do with my one-on-one clients, because our mind is tricky. In my one-on-one sessions, it's not just, with the words, I can feel the energy of the person. I feel where their ego has those blocks, and that's why we're able to clear it so quickly within 3 months. And so you want to practice that. You want to do this, with yourself. If you want one-on-one work, by the way, the link is below, but even trying this on your own. Getting so comfortable with, what if I can have whatever I want? And a great question to ask yourself in those moments where everything's going amazing, like you're having your best day ever. In that moment, can you ask yourself, how can this get even better? And we're not used to asking that, because the subconscious goes like, oh, that's greedy. Like you're a spoiled brat if you do that, right? We only ask ourselves that in bad moments and rock bottoms. Like, oh, I wish it wasn't this. How can this moment be better? And then we hold ourselves back. Like, well, I just want a little bit better. Like, I don't need, the cake and the cherry on top. It's just like a little bit better. But you didn't come here to settle for a little bit better. You came here to experience, like I said, it's an amusement park. You came here to experience the best of the best. And we all have our individual best of the best. So what is that for you? And the way to practice that, like I said, in those moments where you're having the best time ever, how can this get even better? How would I feel even more joy, more bliss, more happiness, more abundance? And you may not be comfortable acting on it right away, but just getting comfortable with the idea, getting comfortable with the feeling of that in your body. So to recap, the 3 steps to move through this unworthiness. Number 1, remembering that it's not you, it's not your essence. This unworthiness is a story. Where did it come from? If you want to go further, whose story is it? Early caregiver, someone in your close circle. Usually it originates in childhood. Look into that. Number 2, connecting to your essence, remembering who you really are, remembering that center. What are some of the practices that you can put in place, maybe first thing in the morning, right before bed, so that you can keep coming back home to yourself? Number 3 is getting comfortable with actually feeling good, being comfortable, training that muscle of worthiness, of abundance, of I am here to receive life as fun and easy and fantastic, and I'm here to enjoy it. So on this note, if you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. There's a free gift for you guys below in the description. There's also the link for my one-on-one work if this is something that you want to dive deeper in and you want personal support with. Incredible results in 3 months I keep having with clients, so you can check that out. And on this note, I'm wishing you such a powerful day, and may you remember how freaking incredibly powerful you are.